The walk-on as a drum corps member is always the most hyped part of any show. And when you have almost a pre-show kind of vibe whenever you're walking on and you can already be in a character as soon as you get on the field, it's the best feeling. When we think of the greatest shows or most iconic shows of all time, there's probably a lot of shows that come to mind for you. You might think of any one show that ended up winning, you might think of shows that were runner-ups, or maybe you have an incredibly niche preference of this one random show from 2007 that was your absolute favorite. Either way, the term greatest of all time is extremely subjective, but there is one show that I think has one of the greatest cases for it, and that is Phantom Regiment 2008. Now, this is not my personal favorite show, but when it comes to the actual general effectiveness of this show, the cleanliness of the show, and the overall effect that this show brought to the entire drum corps world is incredible and cannot be dismissed. This show, to this day, still gets high praise from people that are still just now entering the activity, as well as those that started the activity back in the 70s. It's safe to say that this show is etched in the minds of almost every single drum corps member and fan. You'd be hard-pressed to find somebody that hasn't heard of this drum corps show. Now, why is that? Well, there's a lot of reasons, and today we're going to go over some of my favorite moments of this show, and just kind of take some time to celebrate this amazing production that was put on by the Phantom Regiment in 2008. I think the biggest reason that this show was so impressive and so incredible, and still remembered to this day, is the payoff at the end. The entire show tells a story of rebellion, heartbreak, triumph, and in the end, justice. The show does this without uttering a single word besides "I am Spartacus." And by the time those words are said, the entire story has already unfolded, and it is probably one of the most iconic lines in drum corps history. So without further ado, let's go over some of my favorite moments of this show. I'll be getting a snippet from pretty much each movement, but if you want to watch the entire show, you can just find it on YouTube. There are so many recordings of this thing, I promise you'll find one of them. I like to have commentary and I like to talk over some of these videos because I don't want it to just be a sit down and watch with me. I like to add stuff. I've done this activity for 5 years, so I think some of the commentary is necessary. But alright, let's get into my favorite moments. Look at those rotations, baby. Oh my gosh. And the foot timing, immaculate. So good. So the opening statement going right into the percussion feature is incredible. The lines that stay completely straight even when there's an implied connection and not an actual connection. The rotation is incredible and the foot timing is immaculate. One thing that stood out to me a lot in this show is the fact that the horn line's feet and horn moves were together every single time. There wasn't a single move that I saw that didn't go up completely together, or at least within sequence. And the foot timing, even across different time signatures and time signature changes, was impeccable. Being in the horn line section, that is usually the section I focus on the most, which is why I decided to point out those things. So let's get on to my next favorite moment of the show. This sequence of drill from the entire corps is one of the biggest reasons and honestly best arguments I could see against prop use in modern drum corps. The fact that there were no props in this entire show besides maybe the weapons just goes to show how good the staging was and how much thought went into staging an entire production. The space that the entire drill takes up while still being able to play in time, being visually interesting, as well as showcasing where the focus should be at all points without the use of props is incredible. This is one of the few things that I will give some of the drum corps boomers. Sometimes nowadays I think that staging in drum corps is a bit of a lost art. Props certainly help, and don't get me wrong, I am not against props at all. I actually love the use of props when done right. But sometimes the skill of staging and the skill of where to put each section on the field, how to move them from one place to another, can get a little bit tricky when props are in the mix. You had to just figure it out when there was nothing else but green turf. And I think Phantom Regiment does an incredible job of this during the show. Let's move on to my next favorite part. Wow. This mellow is immaculate. The mellophone, the partner choreography, it is absolute chef's kiss. And then ending the ballad in a heart set when you know what's about to happen is just an absolute tragedy, as well as some crazy foreshadowing on the show designer's part. Not only that, but the fact that this ballad hit is behind the front hash. That is relatively far back when it comes to ballad hits. There's not a lot of ballad hits in modern drum corps that are behind the front hash. In most cases, you're trying to get as far up on the field as possible so that the judges can hear how beautiful your brass sound really is. So the fact that they were able to deliver such an emotional moment and still have the staging for the flags in the front, as well as be able to play such beautiful music from so far away, is actually so impressive by today's standards. Now let's move on to my second to last favorite moment of this show. So good. Licking the sticks. The war or fight or battle sequence is one of the coolest parts of any modern drum corps show in the past 20 to 30 years. There's not a lot of times anymore where an entire corps is doing something visually together. Obviously, there is still a bit of separation. The guard is supposed to be a little bit more open and free when they have less equipment, and it kind of showcases that in the movement. Whereas the horn line and battery are soldiers, so they're supposed to be a bit more sturdy. But even then, being able to move confidently to showcase this battle sequence is incredibly impressive. I know I've said impressive a lot in this video, but I promise you, this, even to today's standards and skill level, is incredibly impressive. So I might say it a couple more times throughout this video. Sorry about that. Now, let's move on to my last favorite moment, which is probably pretty obvious by now. Now, a lot of you were right to point out the fact that this closer was not in my previous video, despite the fact that it was some of the best closers of all time. Well, this is the reason why. I think that outside of maybe Vanguard 2018, this closer has easily the best, greatest, most triumphant, and emotionally exhilarating moments of all time. The payoff after screaming, "I am Spartacus." The showcase from the very beginning that one of these guards did not think like the rest, and that ultimate payoff of him switching sides and freeing or siding with the other side. He is choosing to do the right thing, and by doing so, it is the ultimate victory and ultimate drum corps closer. This show, as well as many other of their shows, are the reason why Phantom Regiment is one of the most iconic corps out there. And even though they've only taken home the Founders Trophy twice, you can ask any drum corps fan who the Phantom Regiment are, and they could probably tell you a show or two of theirs. I love this show. I think it's one of the best shows out there, and I want to hear y'all's thoughts on it. What do you think about this show? Let me know in the comments below, and if you want to see more videos like this, please let me know, and subscribe to the channel and turn notifications on. More videos are going to come out like this every single week, so stay tuned for more. Thank you all so much for watching.